Welcome back to the Strato Automation Technical channel. In this video, I'll be going over how to build custom graphics, dashboards, things like that in SLC. To start here, I've just launched the software. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to setup mode. And then I'm going to connect to my BACnet network. And I'm going to use the automatic discovery tool here to pull in all my controllers, which will be easier when I'm trying to add points and customize my displays and dashboards later on. Okay, great. Now that all those have been brought in, I'm going to go ahead and add a new site. So to start, I'll right click over here. It'll bring up this dialog box here to type in, and I'll go ahead and name this dashboard. So this will be my landing page whenever I launch SLC to monitor, my building or my site. So I've named this dashboard. Now I can go ahead and click. If I right click in this viewing pane over here, it gives me two options. I can add a display value and I can add a background image. So first I'm going to click on background image. I'm going to find my file that I'm looking for my background image here. It has to be a PNG, so I'll bring in this retail site. So I bring that in, and as you can see, it's kind of big. And we don't have a way to resize it once you bring it in. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open that photo. So that's the file here. I'll open it. Okay, here it is. Sorry, that's the wrong one. This guy. I'll go ahead and right click and I'll click resize image. So you can see I can either change the width and height, the pixel count, or I can do a percentage. Let's go ahead and size this down to 80% of the original. And I'll save that as retail site small. Yep. Okay, let's get rid of these, and then I'll go ahead and right click again and bring in that background image again. So it was retail site small, and you can see now it fits the screen better. So you just have to resize it and save it as a new file. If the size is too big or too small, I could have blown up an image as well if it was too small. So once I've done that, and all my controllers are brought in, what I can do is I can add display values. So this is my dashboard. So some of the points that I'm going to want to bring in are things, like outdoor air temperature. So on this list here, let's go ahead, scroll down to AV29. We'll bring that in. What else do we want to bring in? Let's bring in the fan lock status, so we can bring in some statuses and some alarm type points. Fan status, perfect. I can bring in the freeze condition. There it is. I could bring in, free cooling authorization if I have an economizer. And then using this drop down here, I can also pick points from different controllers. So let's look at this guy. This is a BZ424. Let's say I want to bring in the status of the T-zone network. So that's BV24. And the two ones we're going to be using are 8 and 48 on this network I have here. So I'll scroll down to that one. So I'll bring in both of these. And let's say on this side here, I've got one store on the right-hand side or office type thing, and a different one over here on the left. So I can rearrange these and move these around wherever I want. So let's say I got my unit on the roof, so I'll put these points over here. I'll put my free cooling authorization by my outdoor air temperature, and I'll have, store 1 and office 1 or whatever. So now that I have these points, although it is kind of difficult to keep track of things when they're, just the standard name from the point list, So what I do is I right click on the point and it brings up this menu here. I can rename it, I can delete it, or I can make it writable. So first I'll go ahead and rename this. So we'll go office. And this one I'll rename and we'll call this store. Up here I can rename this as outdoor. Oops, sorry, not outdoor, outdoor. I'll leave this one as free cooling authorization. My fan status, we'll call this fan, and we'll call this frozen. Additionally, I can make these writable. So, but I'll get into that later for set points and things like that. So this is a pretty simple dashboard, but I like to do things like this, just add a couple points on here. Some things, if you're quick looking at it, you could tell if something's wrong here. So this T-zone status would be able to tell you if something's disconnected or, you lost power to your zone sensors, things like that. Your outdoor air temp is just nice to know. If it's really hot one day or really cold, you can see if you're saving money with your free cooling on your economizer. Just some cool things to add here for some quick information. So let's say I have a floor plan now. So I want to kind of dive deeper and go beyond this dashboard view and get into, let's say I want to look at my office. So I can add a new site. So we'll call this office. And before I add a background image, what I can do as well over here is I can drag and drop these controllers underneath. So let's say under my office, on this unit, I have one BP848 handling a rooftop unit or air handler or something like that. And I've got my 2 VAV zones underneath that. So that's how I'm treating my space. And so I can kind of, stack things in this tiered list here just to keep track of them for a building manager, things like that. Just help you keep things separate. And I can look at all these controllers and see what's going on in each of them. So let's go back to this floor plan. So to bring in a floor plan, once again, I'll right click in this main viewing window here and I'll add a background image and I'll bring in this floor plan for this office. This is a pretty small floor plan, but we could do the resizing. Again, if I wanted to make it bigger or smaller to fit the window, which would be, but this one seems to be just fine. So once again, I'll right click to add my display values. Let's see, what do we want to bring in here? Let's bring in some points from our BZ424s. So let's bring in our room temp and our set point, as those are probably going to be the most common for each. So I'm double clicking on these points to bring them in. And then let's see, a 48 is my other one. So I'll bring in the room temp and temperature set point for those as well. So here, let's say this whole space up here is treated from that one VAV, and this one down here is treated in the other one. Once again, I can right click on these. I'll rename this. So we'll call this main area temp. Save that, hit enter, and I'll rename this as main area set point. Down here, we'll call this the lounge temp and lounge set point. So now on my my floor plan here, I can see the two different zone temps here as well as the set point. So let's say somebody's it was take your daughter to work day or something, and some kid came in here and was messing around with the set points, and you see that for whatever reason one of these set points is really high or really low. If I right click on the set point, I can make it writable. So for both of these, I'll make these writable. And when I click on these, I can edit the set point. So I could raise it to 80, I could drop it, do whatever, as long as it's within the range for my controller, which I believe the default gives you a pretty wide range, around 72 for the default. So this is just a good, nice way to not only monitor your space temps, but also make changes to your set point. If it's a really hot day, you might bump it up a degree or two just to try to save some money, something like that. So this is a good way to keep track of things and, build your own graphics for it. Another thing that is important to keep in mind is the scaling for Windows and your resolution and aspect ratio. So one thing that I've noticed is if I go to my display settings here, and for the best results in this, I like to keep my scaling at the recommended, although 100% is going to give you the true sizing. And if you're using a different aspect ratio, so I'm using 16:9 right now, but if you're using a different aspect ratio as well, that will cause some issues as far as the scaling and sizing of your window. So after I've created all of my floor plans and I've got all my points brought in, and I'm happy with how everything is looking, what I'll do is I'll go up here to project, I'll hit save as, and I'll save this as, we'll call this, so 1, 2, 3, 4 West 2nd Street. I was the building manager, and I want to keep track of all my properties on if I save all my project files, something like that. And if this PC is being left on site, let's say it's your building management, you're remoting into this PC, something like that, I could go ahead and throw it in building management mode with password or lowercase b. And then it just allows me to edit my set points and view everything that's writable. But I can't make changes and add new graphics, things like that. And once I've saved my project, let's say SLC closes for whatever reason, when I open it back up again, it'll take me right back into the most recent project file. So that's why it's important to save it. So that way, in the event of power failure or something like that, if your PC power cycles, when you launch the program again, it'll take you right back in to this program and this project. So this has been, how to set up simple dashboards and build custom graphics built using custom PNG images in SLC. If you want to see how to set up these controllers, it is, the easiest way to make these graphics is once you've already configured your controllers. If you'd like to see that, we have lots of videos covering that. But that's going to be all for this video. Thank you for watching and have a great day.